I am a 32-year-old software developer in Seattle, with what I thought was a perfect 7-year marriage to Melissa. That changed when Jake, the attractive new neighbor, moved in next door 3 months ago. I first noticed something off when Melissa started acting differently, always finding excuses to chat with him. Then one day, I came home to find her bags gone and a note saying she needed space. I was devastated. Drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button to hear how I refused to be treated as a backup option when my world fell apart. Melissa and I were college sweethearts. We met during sophomore year when we were paired for a group project in our economics class. The chemistry was instant, and within weeks, we were inseparable. After graduation, we moved to Seattle together, where I landed a job at a growing tech company and she pursued her career in marketing. We married 2 years later, in a small ceremony, with just close friends and family. For 7 years, our marriage seemed solid. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our weekend hiking trips in the mountains and dinner parties with friends. We both had good careers, and were planning to start a family within the next year. Our marriage was not without its challenges, but we always managed to work through them, or so I thought. Looking back now, I realize we had fallen into a comfortable pattern rather than actively nurturing our relationship. I was guilty of taking our marriage for granted, believing that our foundation was unshakable. 3 months before everything fell apart, I was working overtime on a major project that could lead to a promotion. I was staying late at the office 4 or 5 nights a week, often coming home after Melissa had gone to bed. On weekends, I would catch up on sleep or prepare for the upcoming week. I knew it was putting a strain on our relationship, but I kept telling myself it was temporary and would benefit our future. During this busy period, Jake moved into the house next door. He was in his mid-30s, recently divorced, and worked as a personal trainer at an upscale gym downtown. From the moment he arrived in our neighborhood, he made an impression. He was the kind of guy who commanded attention without seeming to try, with his athletic build, easy smile, and confident demeanor. Our neighbor Lisa organized a welcome barbecue for Jake about a week after he moved in. Melissa and I both attended, and I remember watching as Jake worked the crowd, charming everyone with stories about his travels and his work with celebrity clients. He was particularly attentive to Melissa, complimenting her on her insights and laughing at her jokes. I felt a twinge of something then, not quite jealousy but awareness. I dismissed it as my own insecurity. After that barbecue, Melissa mentioned Jake frequently in conversation. She started a new workout routine, saying Jake had given her some tips. She changed her hairstyle and updated her wardrobe. Small changes that individually meant nothing, but together formed a pattern I was too busy to fully notice. As weeks passed, Melissa began spending more time away from home. She would go to the gym after work or meet friends for drinks more often than usual. When I asked about her new social schedule, she would say things like, "I have been feeling a bit stagnant lately," or "I just need some me time while you are focused on your project." It made sense, and I felt guilty for being so absorbed in work. Then came the text messages and phone calls. Melissa would step outside to take calls, her voice hushed. She kept her phone face down and took it with her everywhere. Once I glanced over as a notification lit up her screen and saw Jake's name. When I asked about it casually, she said they were coordinating a neighborhood watch program that Lisa had suggested. My suspicions grew, but I did not want to be the jealous, controlling husband. When I finally gathered the courage to ask her directly if something was going on, she seemed genuinely hurt by the accusation. "Arnold, how could you even think that?" she had asked, tears in her eyes. "I have been friends with the neighbors for years. Just because Jake is a man does not mean anything inappropriate is happening. Do you not trust me at all?" I backed down, immediately apologizing for my suspicions. She was right, I told myself. I was letting my insecurities and stress from work cloud my judgment. I promised myself I would make more effort to reconnect with Melissa once my project was completed. But 2 weeks later, I came home early from work, hoping to surprise Melissa with dinner reservations at our favorite restaurant. Instead, I found a note on the kitchen counter. It read, "I need some space to figure things out. Please do not try to contact me for a while. I will reach out when I am ready to talk. I love you, but I am confused about what I want. Her closet was half empty. Her suitcase was gone. So was her passport. Panic rising, I went next door to ask Lisa if she knew anything. Her uncomfortable expression told me everything before she even spoke. "I am sorry, Arnold. She left with Jake this morning. I saw them loading suitcases into his car. I thought you knew, but I had no idea. My wife had left with another man, and I was the last to know." The initial shock felt like being plunged into ice water. I called Melissa repeatedly, but each call went straight to voicemail. I texted her asking for an explanation, begging her to just talk to me, but received no response. The silence was deafening, filling our home with an emptiness that echoed with every step I took. That first night alone in our house was the longest of my life. I moved between denial, hoping this was some terrible misunderstanding, and crushing reality as I stared at her empty side of the closet. I could not eat or sleep. By morning, I was sitting on our kitchen floor, surrounded by shattered pieces of a coffee mug I had accidentally knocked over, too numb to clean up the mess. My friend Tony came over after I failed to show up for work and did not answer his calls. He found me in that pathetic state and immediately took control of the situation. He made me shower, eat something, and then sat me down to talk through what had happened. "Look at her Instagram," he said grimly, passing me his phone. There they were, photos posted just hours before. Melissa and Jake on a beach in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, drinks in hand, sunglasses on, looking like they did not have a care in the world. The caption read, "New adventures with this amazing guy, #spontaneity." The realization that everyone we knew could see these photos hit me like a physical blow. Our friends, colleagues, family members, all witnessing my humiliation in real time. Comments from mutual friends showed a mix of confusion and awkward support, some clearly unaware of what was really happening. Over the next few days, I spiraled deeper into depression. I took time off work, unable to focus or function. I barely ate and slept only when exhaustion overpowered my racing thoughts. Tony checked on me daily, sometimes staying overnight on my couch, worried about my mental state. 5 days after Melissa left, her parents called. They had been trying to reach her with no success and were concerned. I had to be the one to tell them that their daughter had abandoned our marriage and run off with our neighbor. Their shock and embarrassment were palpable. They apologized profusely, assuring me this was not how they raised their daughter. That conversation was followed by many others as friends and colleagues noticed Melissa's absence and her social media posts. Each explanation was another knife twist, another humiliation to endure. People reacted with varying degrees of sympathy and judgment, some offering support, others clearly wondering what I had done to drive her away. The worst part was the self-doubt that crept in during quiet moments. Had I been a terrible husband? Was I so caught up in work that I drove her into another man's arms? Could I have prevented this if I had noticed the signs earlier? The questions tormented me, robbing me of any peace of mind. Tony suggested I check our joint accounts, and that revealed another betrayal. Melissa had withdrawn $8,000 before leaving, nearly emptying our shared savings. Money we had been putting aside for a down payment on a bigger house, possibly for the family we had planned to start. Going through her desk, I found brochures for Cabo resorts that had been collected weeks earlier. She had airline confirmation emails in her rarely used personal email account that I discovered still logged in on our shared tablet. This had not been a spontaneous decision. She had been planning her escape methodically and secretly while I worked late nights to secure our future. As the reality of her calculated betrayal sank in, my sadness began to transform into anger. This was not a momentary lapse in judgment or a confused heart. This was a deliberate deception, carried out over weeks, with complete disregard for our 7 years together or the pain it would cause me. 2 weeks after she left, I consulted with a divorce attorney. He advised me to document everything: the abandonment, the money withdrawal, the evidence of her affair. He explained that while Washington is a no-fault divorce state, these factors could influence financial settlements and property division. The process of gathering evidence and preparing divorce papers was emotionally exhausting. Each photo I saved, each bank statement I printed, felt like revisiting the betrayal anew. But there was also something empowering about taking concrete action rather than simply waiting for Melissa to decide our fate. Even as I moved forward with the divorce preparations, part of me still loved her. There were moments of weakness when I considered calling her, telling her I would forgive everything if she just came home. One night, after a few too many drinks, I actually had my phone in hand, her number on the screen, my finger hovering over the call button. Tony had taken to dropping by unannounced, and he arrived just in time to see me in this moment of weakness. He gently took the phone from my hand. "She does not deserve that call," he said firmly. "She did not even have the respect to tell you to your face that she was unhappy. She stole money that was not just hers, and left you to explain to everyone why your wife is posting beach selfies with another man. You are worth more than being someone's backup plan when their tropical fling falls apart." His words cut through the fog of grief and self-pity. They crystallized something I had been struggling to accept. I had to choose between my dignity and a relationship that Melissa had already shattered beyond recognition. In that moment, I made my choice. I deleted her number from my recent contacts and asked Tony to help me finish organizing the divorce papers. No matter what happened next, I would not be someone's consolation prize. I would not be waiting with open arms for someone who had treated our vows as disposable. It was time to stand up for myself, even if it meant standing alone. Exactly 1 month after leaving, Melissa returned home as unexpectedly as she had left. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard her key in the lock. She walked in tanned and wearing new clothes I had never seen, pulling her suitcase behind her. Her expression was difficult to read, a mix of apprehension and something like relief. "Hi," she said, as if she had just returned from a normal day at work, rather than a month-long escapade with our neighbor. I had imagined this moment countless times, playing out different scenarios in my head. Would I break down? Would I rage at her? But when it actually happened, I felt strangely calm, detached almost. "Hello, Melissa," I replied, continuing to prepare my coffee. My composure clearly threw her off balance. She had expected tears, shouting, or desperate questions. Instead, she got polite distance, like I was greeting an acquaintance rather than a wife who had abandoned me. She set down her suitcase and moved tentatively into the kitchen. "I needed some time away to clear my head," she began. "It was not what it looked like. I just needed a break from everything." I took a sip of my coffee, looking at her over the rim of my mug. A break that required emptying our savings account and flying to Mexico with our neighbor. She flushed, her composure cracking. "It was not planned like that. Jake was going anyway and offered me a ticket when I mentioned needing space. I was confused and made an impulsive decision." I set my mug down. "So confused, you needed to pack secretly, withdraw $8,000 from our account, and not answer my calls for a month. So confused, you had to post pictures of your little adventure for all our friends and family to see." Her eyes welled with tears. "I made a mistake, Arnold. A terrible mistake. It was not romantic with Jake. We were just friends traveling together." I almost laughed at the absurdity of her claim. "I saw the pictures, Melissa. Everyone did." She sank into a chair at the kitchen table, tears now flowing freely. "It started that way, but it was not what I thought it would be. Jake, She paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. "He met someone else there, another tourist. By the second week, he was spending all his time with her, and I was alone in a foreign country, realizing what a horrible decision I had made. So, that was it." She had not returned because she had realized she loved me, or because she regretted hurting me. She had returned because her tropical romance had fizzled when Jake found a newer, more exciting conquest. I was Plan B, the reliable fallback option. Without a word, I went to my office and returned with the manila envelope my lawyer had prepared. I placed it on the table in front of her. "What is this?" she asked, though. I think she already knew. "Divorce papers," I replied calmly. "I have already filed. These are your copies." She stared at the envelope as if it might bite her not touching it. "Divorce. But I came back, Arnold. We can fix this." We can go to counseling. I will do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust. I do not want to rebuild anything, I said, surprised by how certain I felt. You betrayed me in every possible way, Melissa. You lied, you stole, you humiliated me, and now you are only back because your fling moved on to someone else. That is not fair, she cried. I made one mistake in 7 years. One mistake, I repeated incredulously. You planned this for weeks. You withdrew money that was meant for our future. You ignored my calls while posting your beach photos for the world to see. Every day you were gone was another choice to continue hurting me. She stood up and approached me, placing her hand on my arm. Please, Arnold. We have too much history to throw away. Remember how we used to talk about having children, about growing old together? We can still have that life. I gently removed her hand. The life I wanted included a wife who respected me enough to talk about problems instead of running away with another man. I will not be anyone's backup plan, Melissa. I deserve better than that. And honestly, so do you. In the days that followed, Melissa launched a full campaign to change my mind. Her parents called to express their disappointment in her actions and their support for me, which only made her more determined. She sent flowers to my office with apologetic notes. She contacted our friends trying to rally support for reconciliation. Many of our friends took my side, some cutting ties with Melissa entirely. A few suggested I consider forgiveness, that marriages could survive even this kind of betrayal, but they respected my decision when I explained I could never trust her again. Jake returned to the neighborhood a week after Melissa, apparently having extended his stay in Cabo with his new fling. He had the audacity to approach me as I was getting my mail one evening. Look, man, he began awkwardly. I just want to say what happened with Melissa and me was not planned. It was just a fling. Nothing serious. I never meant to break up your marriage. I looked at him, this man, who had casually participated in destroying the life I had built, and felt nothing but pity. You did not break up my marriage, Jake. Melissa chose to leave, and I chose not to accept her back. But do me a favor and keep your distance from now on. As we began the process of dividing our possessions and putting our house on the market, Melissa made one final desperate attempt to win me back. She wrote me a 10-page letter detailing our entire relationship, from our first meeting to our wedding day to the vacations and holidays we had enjoyed together. She wrote about her regrets and her hopes, painting a picture of the life we could reclaim. Reading it late one night, I felt a moment of doubt. There had been so much good in our relationship. Was I being too harsh, too unforgiving? But then I remembered the calculated nature of her betrayal, the fact that she had only returned when her exciting alternative had fallen through, and my resolve strengthened again. At our final meeting with the lawyers to sign the last divorce papers, Melissa made one last plea. She asked for a private moment, and with tears in her eyes, promised that if I gave her another chance, she would spend the rest of her life making it up to me. I believe you mean that right now, I told her gently. But I do not want someone who stays with me out of guilt or obligation. I want someone who chooses me first, not as a consolation prize. With that, I signed the papers that ended our marriage. 6 months later, I was settled in a new apartment closer to downtown. The divorce had been finalized, the house sold, assets divided. The transition had been painful, like recovering from major surgery. But I was healing more each day. Therapy had been instrumental in processing my grief and betrayal. My therapist helped me understand that while Melissa's actions had been devastating, they were not a reflection of my worth. She had made her choices based on her own issues and unhappiness, not because I was somehow lacking or unlovable. I had reconnected with old friends who had fallen by the wayside during my marriage and made new ones through a hiking club I joined. Surprisingly, Melissa's brother Caleb remained in contact with me. He had been disgusted by his sister's behavior and made it clear that he valued our friendship independently of my failed marriage. At work, I had received the promotion I had been working toward when everything fell apart. The irony was not lost on me that the very project that had kept me working late nights, possibly creating space for Melissa to drift away, had ultimately provided me with a career advancement that helped me rebuild my life. I threw myself into my new role, finding satisfaction in the challenges and responsibilities. I also started pursuing interests I had always wanted to explore but never made time for during my marriage. I took cooking classes, started learning Spanish, and signed up for rock climbing lessons. Each new experience helped me rediscover parts of myself that had been subsumed in the identity of being Melissa's husband. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Melissa at a coffee shop. She looked different, thinner, with shorter hair, but it was the change in how I felt seeing her that truly surprised me. Instead of pain or anger, I felt something close to indifference. We exchanged brief, polite greetings before I collected my coffee and left. That night, I realized I had finally moved past the worst of the grief. I heard through mutual friends that Jake had indeed continued his pattern, becoming involved with a married woman in our neighborhood before moving away when her husband confronted him. Melissa, I was told, had taken a job in another city, perhaps finally accepting that our chapter was truly closed. As I reflected on the experience, I recognized red flags I had ignored, like Melissa's increasing secretiveness and her quick defensiveness when I expressed concerns. I learned how important open communication is in a relationship and how easily comfort can be mistaken for connection. Most importantly, I learned that self-respect must be the foundation for any healthy relationship. When I eventually felt ready to date again, I approached it with caution, but also with openness. I was more attentive to potential warning signs, but careful not to let past hurts make me overly suspicious or guarded. That's how I met Eliza, a children's book illustrator I connected with at a friend's gallery opening. From our first conversation, I appreciated her straightforward nature and genuine interest in getting to know me. I was honest with Eliza about my divorce and the trust issues it had left me with. Rather than being put off, she respected my candor and shared some of her own past relationship challenges. We took things slowly, building a foundation based on honesty and mutual respect. As our relationship developed, I realized something profound. While I would never have chosen the pain Melissa caused me, the experience had forced me to grow in ways I might never have otherwise. I became more self-aware, more attuned to my needs and boundaries, more appreciative of genuine connection. The betrayal that once felt like it would destroy me had ultimately led to a life that was more authentic and fulfilling. I had learned that sometimes losing someone is actually finding yourself, that ending a relationship that does not serve you creates space for growth and new possibilities. The most important lesson was understanding the power of choosing dignity over desperation. By refusing to be someone's backup plan, I had affirmed my own worth and opened the door to relationships based on mutual choice and respect rather than convenience or habit. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between holding on to something familiar but broken or stepping into the unknown to honor yourself? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you or you know someone who might benefit from hearing it, please like, subscribe, and share it with them. Remember that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is necessary for genuine happiness and healthy relationships. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope it brings some comfort or clarity if you are facing similar challenges in your own life.